Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Uh, as you've seen, I've made a couple of shorts just showing off the 2023 Nightster Special that I own. I did my best to try to fix the audio in this video. This is my first attempt at doing a POV recording, and unfortunately the mic that I purchased, it just picks up way too much wind. I've spent a lot of time with the audio file. I did my best, so I've still got it rolling in the background. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to go over some pros and cons of this bike. I know that there's quite a bit of information out there, most of which, from what I can tell, are just motorcycle vloggers who are doing test rides and giving their initial impressions. And I wanted to give my opinions as an owner of the motorcycle. So, I guess to start out with, we'll get the cons out of the way, and then we'll go into everything that I really like and enjoy about this bike here. There's only a couple of cons that I've picked out so far after owning the motorcycle for a little over a month now, and I've put about 1,200 miles on it. To begin with was just the factory exhaust. It's kind of a two-part dislike. It was way too big and bulky looking. I wasn't overly a fan of the beveled edge with like the downward slash cut on it, and two, just way too quiet. Now I know Harley has all sorts of EPA and noise regulations that they have to abide by. And I understand that, and there are some pros to having a quiet exhaust. If you leave early in the morning and commute, you're not waking up the neighborhood, but it was way too quiet. All I could really hear was valve train and intake noise, and just wasn't a fan. So the S&S slip-on that I have on it now really fixed a lot of those problems. It woke the engine up, it backfires, crackles, pops, and just really gives a nice sound to this engine throughout the rev range and gears. Moving on to the second con is I really wish they could have snuck a little bit more fuel capacity in there. I know that they were pretty limited with it, the fuel tank being under the rider's seat, which doesn't really bother me all that much, but I wish they could have got maybe 3.5 gallons or so. My fuel range is about 120 miles safely, and then I'm going into reserves for 30 miles or so. Now, granted, I didn't buy this motorcycle to be a cross-country tourer, and there are people who have actually done it. There's some videos out there with folks going from like the Bay Area in San Francisco all the way out to the tail of the dragon of the Carolinas. But just a little bit more range would have been nice. But other than that, those are really the only nitpicking things that I have on the motorcycle. Um, I can tell you that the RevMax 975, while it is a controversial engine because it's not your traditional Harley twin, doesn't have the same idle characteristics and stuff like that, really has a lot of grunt and just spirit to it, especially when you roll on the throttle. So going over the pros, I guess I'll begin with the front of the bike and work my way back and kind of talk about some of the details as I go along. I really like the wheels of the Nightster Special. I just think the casting or whatever they did, it just really looks pretty aggressive and fits the bike well. I enjoy the fact that from the factory, the Special comes with LED lighting all around, so considering the headlight, front turn signals, rear turn signals, and rear brake lights are all LEDs. It looks really nice. The front cowl on the motorcycle actually does a really nice job of wind deflection. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to need a windscreen or not. I have ridden naked sport bikes in the past, and the wind blast on my chest while riding those was almost unbearable. But I think you sit low enough in the seat of the Nightster Special um, that the front fairing creates a nice smooth wind gust, and it hits me right at my shoulders and pretty much dead in the face of my helmet. Now I'm 6 foot, about 260 pounds, with about a 32 inch inseam, if that gives you any idea of my riding, I guess, dimensions. But like I said, there's a nice wind pocket, or negative pocket, if you will, like right in front of the display, right above the um, air filter cover. And so it actually makes it bearable on the highway and at higher speeds. Um, I did throw the mini apes on. The factory bars were fine. It actually reminded me a lot of riding my Tracer 900, which was a sport touring bike that I owned before this. Slightly leaned forward, and I do like the mid controls, but owning a cruiser, I wanted to have the vibes of riding a cruiser. So the Mini 8 kit that I did have the Harley Davidson dealership install has worked out really, really well. It gives it, I think, that kind of traditional Sportster, Softail, Dyna look, and is very, very comfortable. Allows me to sit upright. I have a slight bend in my elbows, and so that's just a nice creature comfort to have. I guess while we're talking about bars and controls, the interface that you have, what you're working with on both the right and left side is easy enough to navigate. I do enjoy being able to control my Bluetooth audio on the right side. I can pause, skip songs, answer phone calls, adjust volume, and on the left, I guess one of the best features of this motorcycle is the fact that it comes with cruise control. I've never owned cruise control, and I hope it is something that comes standard on all bikes in the near future because it is a game changer. Just overall fatigue, being able to set it and kind of forget it while you're running down longer stretches of highway and things like that. It's a it's a wonderful feature to have on a motorcycle. The display on this bike is fantastic. I'll do a review of it if anybody wants to, but I think there's a lot of content out there already on them. It's clear in all lighting, whether it's dusk to dawn. I've ridden directly into the sun or the sun facing into it, and it's easy to see. I like to be able to navigate and kind of check some of the vital signs of the motorcycle, like engine temp, tire pressure, and stuff like that. Um, you can easily Bluetooth connect your phone and run maps and navigation from it. And as I stated before, also just control your audio that you're running. So really, really nice display, really intuitive. It's pretty easy to navigate and things like that. Moving back, the seat is probably one of the most factory seats, excuse me, one of the most comfortable factory seats I've ever ridden on. That's typically an area where manufacturers kind of skimp on, but I find myself after, easily an hour, no real fatigue, and I could go a lot longer than that. I think it's pretty cool that this did come with a rear passenger seat as well as passenger pegs. That's an add-on that you have to add to a lot of other models of Harley Davidson out there. And the suspension, both front and rear, is great. I know some people aren't happy with the fact that the front shocks are not adjustable. That doesn't really bother me when I'm riding a cruiser. I'm not out there tracking the bike or anything like that, and the dual valve shocks that they have on this do just fine. I have set the preload on the rear, and that has made a lot of difference. I've set it to my dimensions, and it really handles bumps and stuff like that well. Um, and then it's just off to the rear of the bike, the rear fender, as you look from the rear to the front of it, especially with the apes, it just gives the standard Sportster look to it. I know there's a lot of controversy with this motorcycle, one it being water cooled. Water cooling doesn't bother me at all. To me, that's performance and reliability. And as you look down in the riding position, you can't even see the radiator from the rider's perspective. Um, and I know the Rev Max 2 is one of those engines that, kind of mentioned it earlier in the beginning of the video that, it doesn't have your traditional Harley twin, characteristics at idle, but this engine sounds very, very good, especially when you open it up with an exhaust, and it has its own characteristics to it. And it's got a nice thump to it, and it grunts and pops and backfires and crackles. It's a really fun engine, and the power on this is fantastic. 90 horsepower, so they claim, and about 70 foot-pounds of torque on a 486-pound chassis is no slouch whatsoever. And the motorcycle has absolutely no problems getting me around, whether I'm on two-lane roads as you see in this video here, or I'm cruising down the highway at 70, 75 miles an hour. It has plenty of passing power in six, don't have to drop a gear or anything like that, and it'll just move you. So, I again do apologize that my audio wasn't the greatest. I'm still kind of working out my setup here, and I know it looks like my camera's a little bit off center, but I wanted people to kind of get a POV view of what it looks like, with the apes on it there, and just on a nice day after work heading home. I'm pretty fortunate that there's some pretty cool roads that I can take without having to run down the main interstates if I don't want to. But if you have any questions about the Nightster, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer it. I hope this is kind of enlightening or opening the eyes of some people, or maybe, opening their minds to the fact that, Harley, I don't think is producing entry level motorcycles anymore. I think that they are trying to broaden the options that they provide to people, like myself, coming from pretty much a sport bike or sport touring bike background. Always wanted a Harley, loved the V twin characteristics. I actually owned a Buell XP12R many years ago, and that was one of the bikes that I made me really like the way a V twin feels when you're entering and exiting corners and stuff like that. Had a chance to buy a Nightster 1200 a few years back, just didn't really work out for me. Um, but I can tell you that I have absolutely no regrets purchasing this motorcycle. I've actually had people stop me and ask me a lot of questions about it, and I think that's pretty cool. I like kind of being the oddball from time to time, um, and I hope that this platform is something that Harley does build on, because I do think they have something pretty special here. If people can, look past the fact that it doesn't sound like your Milwaukee 8 or something like that at idle, and that's all subjective too. Hey, if that's the reason why you want to buy a Harley, by all means go for it. Don't get me wrong, I love the way they sound too. I'm a fan of most all motorcycles, um, but I think, like I said, they did something really great here, and I'm looking forward to putting more miles on this. I'm actually trying to challenge myself to put 10,000 miles on this bike, and we'll see where that goes. I do have some future trips and future rides planned. We are getting into the fall, and then quickly winter months here in the Midwest. So I'm going to do my best to try to accumulate as much content as I possibly can to put out there during the non-riding season here, and then get into it and maybe plan a short weekend camping trip getting into spring and stuff like that, and see where it takes me. So like I said, if you have any questions or comments about it, by all means, let me know. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. And I will see you in the next one.